Frank Micoli is a little guy. The little guy that big heart. Whatever I do, I have a passion for. I grew up in Italy. You know, we always go look at cars. We always look at motorcycles. We can afford it, right? We go look, you know? And we were saying, you know, who knows one day? We're just dreamers. I'm curious about everything. When I see something that I think is good, you know, it's for me. It's just a passion. I have an eye for that.
There's all sorts of things here, from Ferrari to American muscle to motor scooters to bicycles. And it became very clear that what was motivating Frank in his desire to collect were things that he was passionate about. Italian scooters from the 1960s made by Vespa. We have road racing bicycles from Tour de France and the Giro Italia, things that inspire Frank from his childhood and growing up into adult life, and objects and pieces of engineering that he wanted to collect.
Back home those days, the Vespa, everybody had a Vespa, a Lambretta, everybody had it, but I didn't have it. But, you know, these are things that when you're a kid, you dream, sometimes comes true.
It's one thing to have a collection of desirable cars. It's another thing for those cars to be in the kind of condition that Frank's cars are in. They're all 5 stars all the way.
Frank has a beautiful, impeccable 1979 512 Berlinetta Boxer.
It's like new. We redid all the suspensions, carburetor, 1979.
Very wide, flat engine that sits very low in the car, improves the center of gravity. It's great race technology that's made for the road. It's a beautiful car, a highly significant car, and that's the one that Frank sought out, and he got it.
We're always impressed by the variety that we see in the collections that come to the Mecum auctions. Frank Micoli will take you from priceless Ferraris to super rare muscle cars that is just beyond description. If you want a special 1969 Ford Boss 302, how would you like the one that Chrysler bought in order to engineer their Cuda AAR and their Challenger TA to go Trans Am racing?
That was in the museum, and it's been with me for a long time. And the history is all there because we have all the documentation.
I have never seen anything like this in my life. There was only one, and Frank has it, and it's going to go up for sale.
The 1999 550 Maranello that Frank has here, a highly significant car in the history of Ferrari. Ferrari had a great run with the flat 12 Boxer, and then President Luca de Montezemolo at Ferrari said, hey, really wish to get a front-engine car back. And so the engineers set to produce the 5.5-litre V12 48 valve, no turbochargers on that engine, because Ferrari wanted that pure sound both in induction and in exhaust. And instantly, the car was a great success.
Well, if you want to name the it car for any Mopar collector, you could start with a 1970 Hemi Cuda in Plum Crazy.
This Hemi Cuda came from Winnipeg. I like horsepower.
426 cubic inches, 2 4-barrel carburetors, 425 horsepower, the way that muscle cars used to be built. And it was an era where cubic inches certainly ruled the day, and the Hemi Cuda could hold its own against anything on the street.
The 2002 575M, it's the upgraded version of the 550 Maranello. But of 2,000 plus cars that were made, less than 250 had the manual transmission. And that's the key for Frank's car here, because in retrospect, all the Ferrari collectors wanted was that manual transmission.
They're rare. These days are rare, so that is in my heart. It's a very nice car because it's easy to drive. It handles are beautiful. And I love that car. I love that car.
This 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner, special on so many levels. First of all, the mileage. It hasn't even been driven enough to restore. Everything on it is practically factory new. The other thing about this car is the engine. It's not a stock engine. It is a Ray Barton built Hemi. And anybody who's familiar with Ray Barton from Reading, Pennsylvania, his son David, so well known for their race Hemi engines.
I told him what I wanted to do. He says, you're crazy. That's a 572 Hemi. It's got 943 horsepower, pump gas. Crazy. And I have the original engine. 300 kilometers on it.
Frank has another highly significant Ferrari in his collection, a 599 GTO. In the Ferrari world, it is absolutely magical. Ferrari have only ever made 3 GTO cars in the entire history of the company. The day that Ferrari put GTO as the suffix of one of their cars, every serious collector of Ferrari automobiles wants it. And this car that Frank has, with its low mileage and phenomenal condition, the collectors are going to go wild for it.
Here's the thing I love about this 2016 Shelby GT350R. It is the spiritual ancestor of the original 1965 Shelby GT350R, which was a race car that won 3 SCCA championships. 5.2 liters, 526 horsepower, 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, and it's an animal. It has all of the tools that you would expect in a race car. That's why you love to see that R at the end of the GT350. This is a car I would love to own.
Frank has a 2018 GTC4 Lusso. It is a 70th anniversary car, which is the 70th anniversary of the birth of Maranello, the factory in Modena in Italy. And what Ferrari did to celebrate those 70 years, they picked 70 iconic race car liveries and dotted them around the production line. And so the GTC4 Lusso that Frank has in his collection is genuinely a one-of-one car produced by Ferrari to celebrate the race car that took part in the 1965 Le Mans.
Back in 1964, Ford was heavily into drag racing. The reality had finally hit home that to win on Sunday is going to help you to sell on Monday. And we look back at this 1964 Ford Galaxie R-Coat. That was pretty much state of the art. 427 cubic inch high-rise, big block Ford engine, 2 4-barrel carburetors, probably in race trim, making about 435, 440 horsepower, 4-speed transmission, the ideal setup for drag racing.
What fascinated me, I had a history behind. What the story was that car used to race. So he pushes the car and all the trophies and everything came with it.
This is a car that is almost in museum quality. It has been raced a lot, and yet when you look at it, it looks like it's hardly even been driven at all.
Frank has a beautiful example of a 2021 812 GTS. 800 metric horsepower with a V12 engine gives us the name. But the origin of the 812 GTS starts with the Superfast, which was a fixed top car. And Maranello, the engineers at Ferrari, wanted to produce a convertible version of that car, hence the GTS, S for Spider, Ferrari lingo for convertible.
That's a car that brand new, I never driven. That's my last car that I bought. Beautiful vehicle.
All of these fantastic cars will be at the original Spring Classic auction, the Mecum sale in Indianapolis in May. What can the bidders expect from Frank's collection? Well, I think back to what Frank told me when I first met him and we started talking about what inspires him when he's buying cars. Buy the most perfect example that is out there on the market and you won't go wrong. Frank found the most perfect car for his collection. That's what's going to cross the block at Mecum.
Well, I'm selling because eventually I got to move from here. And I don't want to go pick up another spot and rebuild it. You know, in life, there's time that you buy, there's time that you sell. Yes, you get attached, but sometimes, you know what, you got to let go too, you know? Whoever buys any of these vehicles cherishes the way I cherish them.